Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March the 15th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, let's say I'm doing pretty good. Um, Work was a good thing. Happy Friday to you. Um, uh, it was weird because apparently we decided to celebrate St. Patrick's Day today because it's on Sunday. I did not get that memo. Granted, I never pay attention to it, so I always come in not wearing green, and always being like, "Man, I hope no one makes a corny joke about this." And luckily, no one didn't. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, overall, I had a good day. But I will say, this is just real talk corner. I don't know. I've definitely been in my head past 24 hours or so. Just kind of been in a little bit of a mopey mood. I don't know. If I had to put a finger on it, I would say it has something to do with dealing with like loneliness, isolation, or something like that. But it can be very frustrating because I know last week I had a good weekend, hanging out with friends and stuff like that. But sometimes you're just not on it, and that's okay. I always try to say, hey, take stock in your day, but it's okay to be upset and accept that and admit that. But also, try to make sure that you're seeing the day for what it really is, not just through this dark lens or through this manic lens or whatever lens, POV you have. Really try to, sum your shit up the best you can. I don't know. I'm kind of ranting, raving a little bit. Obviously, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. And I could probably use one. I might need to get that better help or something. Who knows? Anyway, let's see here. Food corner. I feel like I didn't talk about my food. No, I haven't. Korean fried chicken. That's becoming a little bit more usual. I gotta be honest with you. I'm really not missing the PF Chang's in a bag. Besides the variety, like you had a couple of different options, whereas this is just two different kinds of chicken. I don't know. It's just so much better. Like it just tastes so much better. So there's that. But yeah, it was Korean fried chicken, white rice, some egg rolls. Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good. All right, so that's enough yapping about myself. Sorry about that, but part of this is a personal news blog, and then I get into the news of the world, in that order. But yeah, let me go ahead and take my startup, and then we will go ahead and get into some real news. All right. Our first story comes from USA Today. Oklahoma teen next Benedict next Benedict's cause of death revealed in autopsy report. An Oklahoma teen whose death sparked widespread outrage and calls for change died of an overdose, authorities said Wednesday. Next Benedict was pronounced dead February 8th, one day after being injured in an altercation inside an Owasso High School bathroom. A summary autopsy report concluded the 16-year-old died of toxicity from diphenhydramine and an antihistamine and fluoxetine and antidepressant medication. The medical examiner ruled the teen died by suicide and that the full report will be released in about 10 days. The findings cap weeks of speculation over how the teen died, but many questions remain unanswered about the fight that preceded Nex's death. Nex had been bullied in the past over their gender identity, which did not align with societal stereotypes. Nex, a descendant of the Choctaw Nation, used pronouns he, him, they, and them. Friends and relatives have said. So yeah, I mean, obviously this is a story update that I really wanted to bring. Obviously, I'm really, sad to hear that this is how, Next died. But, I do want to stress that, like, just because this is a suicide, it doesn't mean that, like, you move on from the story like nothing happened to Nex. Like, they didn't have to go through a lot of persecution over wanting to just be themselves and express who they were. Essentially, some of the details I learned that more or less the altercation started in the bathroom from girls talking, more or less talking shit about Nex and their friends. And, essentially this converged into this bathroom. And then you have, the cop after the fact talking, saying like, hey, this doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Do you really want to press charges? Whereas you have Nex saying like, this has kind of been like an ongoing thing. Like I've had to deal with this, situation, for a year, for a really long time. So, and it's also unfortunate too that you see how the school has kind of conducted itself, and excuse me, oh man, got a cough and a burp. But also the state of Oklahoma, where you literally have a situation where if you're a kid, you're anyone, and you want to transition, you have to declare it with the state. Like, you have to go through an extra layer of rigmarole bullshit to be the person you want to be, and you shouldn't have to do that. And I really do feel like in some ways this is just kind of being like pushed down the road as like, oh, this is just a mental health thing now or whatever, where it's like, no, like this didn't happen out of thin air. Like I truly do feel and believe that if you put Next in a better environment where you have people who are just accepting and understanding, and you don't have people trying to bully you or ostracize you for who you are, you don't have the situation. You don't have someone taking their life. I mean, you know what I mean? Altercation or not, you know what I mean? Whether that was the straw that broke the camel's back or not. So I didn't want to let this just fall through the cracks, not to say that like, oh, the media is doing distraction or da-da-da-da, but it is a shame to kind of see this pop up for one day and then, the world kind of moves on. And I didn't want to just tell you guys about what happened and not deliver this update. I really do try to, put a period on these kind of things. And if there's any more updates, I'll, for sure, be here to tell it. But, obviously condolences to the family. And, I really hope that we as a world just fucking change. You know what I mean? Especially as as a world for sure, but just, it sucks to be a part of a nation that like really just seems to like just commercialize this kind of oppression on people of like being like, well, you're just different. So like, you just can't and shouldn't exist for that. And it's just real sad. It's a fucking shame. But yeah, let's move on to another tragedy. From CNN, father of Michigan school shooter found guilty of manslaughter weeks after mother's conviction. James Crumbley, the father of the teenager who killed 4 students at a Michigan high school in 2021, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter in a trial that comes a month after the shooter's mother was convicted of the same charges. Crumbley was convicted of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, a charge that carries a maximum punishment of up to 15 years in prison, which would run concurrently. Jury deliberations that concluded Thursday came more than 2 years after his son, Ethan Crumbley, then 15, used a 6-hour 9mm to kill 4 students and wound 6 students and a teacher at a Oxford high school on November 30th of 2021. James Crumbley is set to be sentenced on April 9th at 9 a.m., the judge said in court. His wife, Jennifer Crumbley, will be sentenced at the same date and time. I'm glad they kind of like reconverged it now that we're kind of wrapped up. Definitely interesting to kind of see the pacing be a little bit different. I feel like the case with Jennifer Crumbley was a little bit more drawn out, and this one was just more like, no, we are saying, hey, he should have had better, what's the word I'm looking for? Control or governance over the firearm that they had gifted their son, Ethan. And I really do feel like they go through the process of proving like, hey, he was criminally negligent. And I do feel that both of them are criminally negligent here. But I still stand by the statement that I really hate that the way things are going is like, instead of us trying to try to attack these problems of like saying, hey, like maybe gun access is a little bit too much. Maybe we should scale that back. Maybe that shouldn't just be so fucking easy to just fucking get a gun. Instead, we're saying like, well, that's not the problem. No, let's just like, when these things happen, let's prosecute the person, let's prosecute the shooter, and then like go out of our way to make sure that like, hey, we get like the shooter's parents, we get the school, we blame everyone else, and that will solve the problem overall. When instead it doesn't. Also, saying, oh, well, this is just a mental health thing, and then just kicking the can along, I think it's also an issue. But going back to the subject at hand, do I feel like both parents were criminally negligent? Oh, yes, I do. I definitely do. I think there was multiple signs. There was a lot of red flags saying like, hey, Ethan has a problem. Like, you don't even have to break into his journal. Like, I mean, like, he's even talking to you. Like, there was a moment where he's talking to James, like his father, saying like, hey, I think I need some help. I need to go see a doctor. And, the father goes, hey, here's some pills. Suck it up. Like, come on. You can't sit there and say, oh, I didn't know. I didn't see a problem. And then going back to the day of the shooting, when literally the school is saying, hey, like, your kid, like, there's a drawing of him and he's with this gun, and he's saying he's like gonna kill people and all this kind of stuff. Maybe you should take him out to get some mental health, take him to the mental health hospital, something like that. And essentially they're like, no, we're busy, we gotta work. And I mean, the wife Jennifer says this, but James okays it. So they're culpable throughout this shit the whole way in my mind. But I really just, like I said, I don't like the kind of pivoting that we're kind of doing, saying like, oh, it's not just criminal negligence. No, like you did the manslaughter. You did involuntary manslaughter. So like, this will make things better. Like, I mean, I think the victims' families were happy to kind of see this. It's a bit of justice served in a way, but also you're just throwing another person in jail and then saying like, okay, we don't have a problem now, we're good. And it's like, no, man, this will happen again. I hate to say this, but like, I will be covering another shooting like this. Like, you know what I mean? And it sucks that like, that is the case, and that the state not just the state, the country I live in is like, well, we're kind of okay with it because, like Second Amendment rights, people just have a right to own the gun. And I'm saying all this knowing that like somewhere in the back of my head, like I think like maybe I should just get one myself. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. But, I'm also the most ultimate hypocrite, spoiler alert. But I don't know, man. This shit just, it's sad and it's unfortunate. And I wish I could tell you guys that I totally just fucking have the answer, that I'm just fucking sitting on it in my goddamn armchair. But I don't. I'm, at the end of the day, I am just here doing the coverage. I'm just as sad. I'm just as mad as y'all about this shit. But I do feel like as a country, we can do more. And I do feel that just saying like, hey, let's just blame mental health. Let's just blame the fucking parents. I do not think that's enough. And I do think we could do more. I know we could do more. So I do hope that, I live in a world where we see better change out of our country. And once again, not just, throwing the shooter and the parents in jail. You know what I mean? I want to see more change that actually stops this shit from happening more often. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've waxed and whined enough about this, I think. Obviously, feel free to get the full scoop from CNN themselves. Let's go on and move on to the next beat. Fuck it. From ABC News. DA Fani Willis allowed to stay on Georgia election case after lead prosecutor resigns. So, I was talking about the other day, and, looks like shit finally shook out from the tree. We finally have a ruling on this situation and an outcome. Nathan Wade, the lead prosecutor in the Fulton County election interference case against former President Trump and his co-defendants, resigned Friday as special prosecutor following a ruling by the judge overseeing the case. Wade's resignation came hours after Judge Scott McAfee declined to outright disqualify Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, but ruled that either she or Wade must step aside from the case due to a significant appearance of impropriety. stemming from a romantic relationship between Willis and Wade. Per the judge's ruling, Wade's resignation means that Willis and the rest of her team will remain on the case. Because essentially, some of the headlines I felt like kind of didn't explain that well enough, but it wasn't just either you leave or he leaves this case. It was either you leave and you get a whole prosecution team to come back on to this case, or he leaves. So it was kind of a no-outer. And let's see, more or less Nathan Wade just says, hey, okay, I'll put in my papers. In his resignation letter addressed to Willis, Wade says he was stepping down in the interest of democracy. Although the court found that the defendants failed to meet their burden of proving that the district attorney acquired an actual conflict of interest, I am offering my resignation in the interest of democracy and dedication to the American public and to move this case forward as quickly as possible, Wade wrote. In a short letter accepting Wade's resignation, Willis lauded him for professionalism and dignity you have shown over the last 865 days. So, I mean, yeah, this kind of more or less concludes this. We can kind of more or less get back to fucking business. I think that's overall good. I also think that this isn't going to do too much to change whatever the inevitable outcome of this trial will be in terms of, like, is Trump and his cohorts going to be, convicted or, not. Let's see, I got a highlighted portion here. I might as well read it. The district attorney may choose to step aside along with the whole of her office and refer the prosecution to the prosecuting attorney's counsel for reassignment, McAfee wrote. Essentially just laying out the ultimatum, like what was at stake there. Let me see here. Now, I think the legal team for at least more or less the cohorts, I know I should name them, but I really don't fucking give a shit. I think like Michael Roman's the name of one of these motherfuckers. I don't fucking care. But I think they wanted to see like more happen out of this. Like, oh no, Fannie Willis should just be kicked off the case and like there should be a whole team brought out, or like we should get like this whole thing thrown out because this is there's some impropriety or what have you. Now, in terms of just like talking about from, where we left off, do I think that Fannie Willis was like completely on the level here? Personally, no. I think there was definitely some canoodling involved, and like, do I think the American interests were at stake here? No. But you definitely had your little, your little boy toy boyfriend, in the middle of his divorce on a case to, get Trump. And was there a chance to like gain financially? I mean, in the sense of like, yeah, you're on the team for this big case, I think for sure. But, I'm kind of doing an umbrella thing, but Trump's legal team, the cohort team, was essentially trying to say, hey, with you trying to delay the case, you're going to make more money. But then the judge, even McAfee's like, no, she's not trying to delay the case. If anything, she's trying to make sure this case is on the rails and on time. You guys are delaying the case. So I can't really say that. But I also can't say without a shadow of a doubt that Willis and Wade are like having this completely on the level relationship. And not to mention there was a lot of people coming through, like witnesses or whatever, saying like, hey, their relationship started at like before the actual case, before the trial, where Willis and Wade were saying, no, that's not what happened. We kind of tripped and fell into a relationship a little bit along the way. We were, kind of going out and stuff like that. And we realized like, oh, we like each other. We should like pursue this. And now we realize like, okay, maybe this is not the move. This isn't right. But, I don't know. I personally don't love that like McAfee kind of split the baby in a way where he's like, well, I'm not going to sit there and say that there's a conflict of interest, but there feels like there's a conflict of interest maybe. So you got to make a move here, Fannie. But hey, I'm kind of glad that at least we can kind of get back to the matter at hand, because I do agree with Fannie Willis when she said, it's like, hey, I'm not the one on trial here. Trump is. You know what I mean? Trump is. His fucking little gaggle of motherfuckers who are trying to overthrow an election, they're on trial. It's not me. There was one more point I really wanted to hit before I moved on here. Another thing that they were mad about is that I mentioned that she had went on to, she did a rant at her church where she had like made this a big racial thing. I personally don't think it's so much of a racial thing. I think that was just kind of something she was kind of running with. But I can understand if she maybe feels like it is. As a black man, I totally get that. You can totally maybe see the shit when you're under the fucking lens of it's like, well, why are you coming for me like this? But from me looking at it, no, I don't think this was a racial issue. It was a, like I said, a canoodling issue. It was like you having like a little bit of a hanky panky issue. And whether or not, do you guys stand to benefit financially? But I still buck against that, like, well, they still gain financially from prosecuting this case. Like, I think Fani Willis was going to do this no matter what, like, period. Whether Nathan Wade is on the scene or not. I don't know. I do feel and agree with McAfee, the judge, that that's a little bit loose. But naturally, the legal team for the defense is pretty butthurt about that. But hey, you gotta go to trial, dog. Like, you keep trying to, like, fucking get the shit thrown out or delayed longer, whatever. But it's like, nah, dude, you gotta face this music eventually, right? But then again, who knows? Maybe Trump wins it all and wipes the slates clean, for the shit that he can. But yeah, time's gonna tell there. A little bit of extra Trump side news, if I can remember it properly. With the hush money thing, I believe that's a New York case that did get officially delayed. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's a win for both parties. Bragg, the prosecuting attorney, and Trump. So there you go. So yeah, cool. We'll call that covered. Sure. We're just bobbing and weaving here, huh? Okie dokie. I have one more thing to cover before I let you go. So you know what that means. It's break time. I'm gonna take my little break, and then we will call it closed after we talk about some Bitcoin. Oh, okay. From CNN, self-proclaimed Bitcoin inventor is not Satoshi Nakamoto. UK judge rules. Hoo-wee. An Australian computer scientist who claims he invented Bitcoin is not Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous inventor of the cryptocurrency. A judge at London's High Court ruled on Thursday. Craig White has long claimed to have been the author of a 2008 white paper, the foundational text of Bitcoin, published under the pseudonym. The Crypto Open Patient Alliance, COPA, took Wright to court to stop him suing Bitcoin developers, asking for a ruling that Wright was not Satoshi. Judge James Mellor said at the end of closing arguments on Thursday that the evidence Wright was not Satoshi was overwhelming. So this was kind of a bit surprising to people because people were like, well, okay, I think there's enough evidence to prove that this dude isn't the guy. He's just not him. But this is probably going to have to go through like months of, legal rigmarole, a lot of blah, 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 a lot of yapping. But essentially, Mellor was like, you know what? I'm going to take 5 here, and I'm going to say this is bullshit. You're bullshit. You're not the one. You're not Nakamoto, so let's just call it. Let's just call it quits. I love that. Saving taxpayers a lot of money. That's cool. Also, sorry about the music. Hey, it's Friday. Happy Friday. My neighbors are partying. If you're hearing that, my bad. It's a little bit of organic sound to sprinkle in there. How about that? But yeah, let me see. I wanted to pull this a little bit too. COPA, whose members include Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, payments firm Block XQ, said the ruling was a win for developers, for the entire open source community, and for the truth. For over 8 years, Dr. Wright and his financial backers have lied about his identity as Satoshi Nakamoto and used that lie to bully and intimidate developers in the Bitcoin community, a COPA spokesperson said in a statement. That ends today with the court's ruling that Craig White is not Satoshi Nakamoto. So that's cool. That's good. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll call that covered. Let's see here. Was there anything else I really wanted to add? Oh yeah, I do like though that like with Sakatoshi Nakamoto that we just don't know who the fuck it is. You know what I mean? Like he's almost like Shakespeare in the sense of like we may never know exactly this person's origin story or even a face, and hell, it might not even be one guy. It might be a group. You know what I mean? It might be like a little legion of motherfuckers who came together to make what is Bitcoin now. You know what I mean? So glad that we were able to put this to bed. It's crazy that a guy was literally trying to scam off the name. But I say it's crazy, but then again, like, of course you're going to have someone who's going to want to try to take the moniker and then try to make, some kind of money, some kind of profit off of it. Like, that's just capitalism, baby. But yeah, let's just call it. I think my neighbors are ready to party, and I don't know. I'd hate to get copyright struck for some music that I don't even want to play. So yeah, let's call it an episode. I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you'd like to help out, support the effort. Let's see, other freeways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. I'm on all the socials you're probably on, so feel free to find me or the podcast there. Hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube, and hit the like button, hit the comments, hit that share, and feel free to do that. Leave a review on any of the platforms that you're listening on. So yeah, that's it. That's the episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend, and hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.